The middleweight motorcycle category in India is absolutely booming, and enthusiasts in that space have been waiting keenly for the arrival of this, Honda's CBR 650F. It's a Honda, it's fully fed, has an inline 4-cylinder engine, which means it ticks off a lot of the boxes for a lot of the people. For the moment though, let's ignore the elephant in the room, which is this thing's massive price tag. And first, what we'll do is get to know the CBR 650F for what it really is. Sweet, that's what it is. It's everything you could have hoped for from an inline 4-cylinder 650cc motorcycle. With 85.8 horses, power isn't in short supply when on the open road, and its 6.4 kilograms of torque is handy as well. There is much to like about the CBR 650F in the way it performs. It's an inline 4-cylinder engine, so you get the refinement, you get the smoothness you would expect from it. Also on the flip side, of course, you don't have great bottom end torque. Nonetheless, this is a very streetable motorcycle. If you really want to make a move in a hurry, like to overtake another vehicle, whether it's in the city or on the highway, keep in mind that you will have to shift down a gear, dial up the revs, and then get going. Now we need to find out what it's like to steer this fully fed Honda. In the saddle, you get the impression that it is indeed a keen motorcycle. With the low-set clip-on handlebars, the seating position is fairly sporty, and there's enough space to crouch properly as well. The suspension is set up on the firmer side, and it tackles corners with great confidence. But with a motor that loves to be revved and a seating position that's more inclined towards sport riding, you won't mistake this for a sport tourer. Well, our saddle time has proved that the CBR 650F is really a great entry-level sport bike, which means it's not going to intimidate you when it comes to daily use. It's not going to intimidate you with its size. It's not going to intimidate you with its power. It'll build your confidence. So it's a motorcycle that's really quite friendly. But what it will intimidate you with is its price tag. And that's what's pushing the CBR 650F into the territory of some heavy hitters like the Z800. Oh yeah, Kawasaki has been feeding Indian riders the Z800's killer combination of power, price and looks. Yeah, where the CBR and the Z overlap is price. And of course that they have inline 4-cylinder engines. But one's a mean-looking naked and the other, to my eye, is a somewhat quirky-looking, fully fed motorcycle. What people want to do with motorcycles like these is to make an impression. Well, it depends on your taste which one you prefer, fully fed or the naked. I prefer the aggressiveness of the Z800. This, I don't know, seems a bit dated to me in terms of its design, but that's up to you. But another aspect, a critical one of an inline 4-cylinder, Indians want that because of the way it sounds, the smoothness of it, and really that refined note that it has. So let's see how they sound, huh? CBR 650F, quite muted at idle. Let's give it some gas. Sounds quite purposeful there. Now the Z800. It's got a lot more bass at idle, doesn't it? Let's see now. Certainly the more meaty sounding motorcycle. So if you want to announce your arrival even before you're on the scene, I think the Z800 does it better. But now we're going to hit the road and see how these two do when it comes to performance out on the road. No surprises, the Z800 has the horsepower advantage. At 111 bhp, the Kawasaki has 25 horses more than the CBR's 85.8. But it is also 16 kilograms heavier. But when you look at the big picture, it still has the advantage. So, from standstill to 60 kilometers an hour, it's neck and neck between the Kawasaki and the Honda. And at 100, the Z's advantage is 0.3 of a second. The gap widens to 140 where it's less than a second. And at 180, it's a bit over a second. But what does that really mean for most riders? So, on most days and for most riders, the difference in straight line acceleration won't be a deal breaker. But then there is the torque. The CBR 650F has 6.4 kilograms of it, and the meat of it comes in past 5,000 RPM. The Z800 packs an extra 2 kilograms of peak torque. but there's just more of it available from a lot lower down in the rev range, from as early as 2000 RPM. While both motorcycles have 6-speed gearboxes, the Z800's ratios are just better suited for a wide variety of riding. So, getting the best out of the Z is just easier and more fun.
As we said before, the CBR 650F has a potent engine and it has friendly performance. But when it comes to displacement, more is always better. And the Z800, whether it's trundling at low speeds in the city and you want a change of pace, or whether you're cruising out on the highway, it has more torque, it has that little bit of extra horsepower, and that just helps to make it feel more relaxed, helps to make it feel just that little bit more eager. And when you really want to gas it, it also feels more fun because of that extra horsepower. But does it also feel more fun when it's shown a set of corners? Let's find out.
Between the two, there are similarities, but there are notable differences in hardware as well. For instance, both bikes use 41mm forks, but the Kawasaki uses an adjustable upside-down unit, while the CBR uses non-adjustable telescopic forks. Both bikes use linked monoshocks at the rear, but only the Z800's is adjustable for preload and rebound. The Z800 uses a box section swing arm. The Honda uses a more premium cast alloy unit. Both bikes come equipped with ABS as standard. And while the CBR uses double 320mm rotors at the front with 2-piston calipers, the Z uses 310mm units with 4-piston calipers. Then when it comes to tires, both bikes use Dunlops and use the same sizes, 120/70 at the front and 180/55 at the rear. But when you hit the road, there are differences between the two. On the Z800, you get an upright seating position. The handlebars are flat and wide, giving you plenty of leverage. The Z800 also has sharper rake for more agility. And its suspension, which is set up for comfort, needs a few fine tweaks to tackle full-blast sporty rides. The Dunlops offer lots of grip, but keep in mind you just need a little bit of time to warm them up. Meanwhile, on the CBR, the tires are grippy from the word go, and its suspension soaks up lightly bumpy B roads better. On the Honda, the bars are also lower and you sit in a sporty lean forward position, which just makes corner carving easier and more enjoyable. But it just seemed to be missing something.
Now, initially when I got onto the 650F, I wasn't all that impressed, but the more I rode it, the more impressed I got. Whether it's the brakes, which really feel sharp, strong, the way it corners, very composed, very confidence-inspiring, the tires just so grippy. It just eases you into the art of cornering. But for the riders with a bit more experience than the beginners, they will find that the CBR 650F lacks on one front, and that's flickability. At corner entry and through direction changes, it just feels that little bit heavy and wooden. And that's where the Z just manages to impress. Despite being bigger, heavier, it just feels more agile and more eager. Yes, it doesn't feel as composed as the CBR, it doesn't have its finesse, but it is still nonetheless a fun motorcycle to ride hard, even around a twisty, windy road. But now we're going to look at the practical side of things and see what these two motorcycles have to offer for the daily rider.
The CBR has a few distinct advantages. Its 810mm seat height is better for shorter riders. The Z800 seat height is 834mm and it also feels more bulky, which makes it more intimidating, especially when making U-turns. The CBR also offers great wind protection at higher speeds. The Z offers none. The pillion seat is also more comfortable on the CBR. However, over speed breakers you need to take extra care as the exhaust scrapes quite easily. And while the quality of fit and finish is good on both motorcycles, the rider will have to get used to some idiosyncrasies on the CBR. For instance, on the switchgear, the position of the horn and indicator switches has been swapped, and the horn switch is just a bit awkward to use. Where the Z feels better though is in terms of its seating position, which is more relaxed for the rider. And the plush suspension setup makes it quite comfortable at low speeds, and it also soaks up bigger bumps at high speeds a little bit better.
So at the end of the day, there's no doubt in our minds that Honda CBR 650F is an impressive entry-level sport bike for those looking for something in the mid-displacement class. But its value is really stretched to the limits because of its price point. So even if you ended up buying one, you'd enjoy it, but then you'd hit the limit of the motorcycle fairly quickly. And then when you look at its opposition here, the Kawasaki Z800, yes, it doesn't have the same level of finesse as a sports bike, but as a more versatile motorcycle, the Z800 definitely feels stronger. It just feels more easygoing and definitely more fun because of the extra punch on offer. So it'll keep you more excited, it'll have you excited for longer. So at the end of the day, the Z800 really seems like the stronger proposition of the two motorcycles here.